Hi, my name is Frank. Welcome to the debut of My Eye. Here at My Eye, I'd like to share the comments that I've derived from my research that I have done in the sacred mysteries of spiritual systems and how they relate to the ancient megaliths of Peru, Egypt, Cambodia, Thailand, and more. During my exploration of truth, I've discovered that there is a missing link evident in the explanation of the origins of many of the ancient megaliths that are scattered all around the globe. In mainstream interpretations, their answers to the question as to why they were built are relatively simple. They wanted to venerate the gods, create a burial place, or perhaps it was part of an ancient astronomical and/or astrological system. When you take into consideration many of the explanations or the theories that we have in the building of many of the megalithic structures, such as in the Great Pyramids of Giza and Machu Picchu and even the Temple of Osiris, you begin to understand that at the time there must have been a different way of looking at things. That would go without saying. If you think about the what and the why and the how and for whom they were built, it may not make total sense simply by viewing or interpreting hieroglyphics and dimensions, but if you incorporate a spiritual element into the equation, you begin to see a different picture. What I would like to present in the buildings of Machu Picchu and the Great Pyramids of Giza and even Angkor Wat in Cambodia is just a different way of looking at the reason for building these megaliths and why. If you introduce a spiritual framework into the equation, you may start beginning to look at the reasoning behind all of this differently, and, as I believe, more accurately. For example, what I would like to describe are the pyramids of Giza without a spiritual framework, and then compare the pyramids with a spiritual framework included. And when I do analyze, I would like to use many of the other structures in ancient Egypt. I would also like to describe Machu Picchu in the same manner, with and without a spiritual framework. I've highlighted many of these spiritual principles in my fictional book titled Inside the Queen's Chamber. Yes, I wrote a book. It's a conspiracy mind thriller that uses many of the spiritual principles as described in the Kabbalah, astrology, and many other spiritual systems. It's the first book of a trilogy in which I'm in the process of completing, and I'm also in the process of turning my first book into a screenplay. A while back, I had the privilege of meeting my favorite author, Graham Hancock, and he stated that a book without readers is not worth writing. That statement, in part, motivated me to gain support of my book and to capture a larger audience. I want to tell my story and present my views and discuss topics in which I'm passionately drawn to. But I would like to clarify my spiritual view. You must remember that when I speak of spiritualism, it's in terms of Judaic mysticism, Catholic mysticism, achieving a state of nirvana, achieving a high level of prana. It could be Eckhart Tolle's being in the moment, or you could include Deepak Chopra's New Age perspective. You can go on and on and on. All spiritual disciplines want to achieve either an inner state of being or a connection with the divine. For example, inner states of being are defined in the Kabbalah through their patriarchs: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Joseph, and King David. They all ultimately direct you towards a form of communication and or connection with a higher force or inner state, whether that be a divine force or trying to achieve higher states of consciousness. In building my spiritual framework, my primary source are the spiritual laws as derived from the Kabbalah, which can be interpreted as being the spiritual heritage of all mankind, a main branch of Judaic mysticism. Why the Kabbalah? In my research and study of Kabbalah, I was told that a person who does seek truth should learn at least one spiritual system, and not necessarily Kabbalah. As I began my study and research of Kabbalah, I began to see how it fit into a spiritual framework that overlapped many other spiritual disciplines. Take, for instance, the Star of David, or more succinctly, the Shield of David. It is in the shape of a hexagram. It is a symbol of religion, and nationalism. It is Kabbalistic, but it's been part of a spiritual heritage that predates the State of Israel and Judaism. You can find it in ancient Egypt, ancient Sumerian culture, in churches like Roslyn Chapel, and in many other Renaissance churches. Let's look at Easter Island. Why were they obsessed with building statues? And why do these statues have certain similarities with statues from Indonesia and from Turkey's Göbekli Tepe? Even the stone masonry from these three areas appear to have identical styles. There are similar characteristics that you cannot deny, and trying to explain them may seem impossible. But when you introduce a spiritual element and incorporate spiritual laws and laws of the universe and numerology, a truth does begin to reveal itself. Now, let's take for instance Peru's Machu Picchu. I had the privilege of visiting there, and I thought I was well researched, but to my surprise, I discovered the only Inca hieroglyph. It's in the form of an eye carved into a stone. It's well stated that the Incas did not use any form of hieroglyphics, but the tour guide did assure me that it was the only true Inca hieroglyph. It was in the Temple of the Sun. In the picture, it shows what the hieroglyph would look like on the day of the summer solstice, which is December 21st, the longest day of the year in the southern hemisphere. The image in the picture can be seen every December 21st, and it takes the shape of an all-seeing eye in the middle of a shadow-casted triangle. We know that there are varying opinions as to when the Incas created those megaliths, but if you relate it to the Eye of Horus or the Eye of Providence or even the eye in the back of a US dollar bill, it can take on a whole new meaning when a spiritual framework is applied. For instance, it can relate to the very construct of a physical pyramid itself. Now, let's look at numbers. Numerology plays a large part in spiritual systems. Take, for instance, the number 7. Why is the number 7 so important? What does the number 7 symbolize? It has significance in every major religion. In the Old Testament, the world was created in 6 days and God rested on the 7th, creating the basis of a 7-day week we use to this day. In the New Testament, the number 7 symbolizes the unity of the 4 corners of the earth with the Holy Trinity. There are 7 sacraments in the Catholic Church, and there are 7 continents, 7 gateways to the soul, 7 seas, 7 chakras, 7 Sumerian gods, 7 statues of Easter Island, the 7 brothers, and so on. You can include the number 10. There are 10 commandments and the 10 plagues of Egypt in the Old Testament. And there are also 10 spiritual dimensions that make up the physical world in Kabbalah. You also have number 12. Spiritually, number 12 symbolizes the 12 halls of Amenti in the Emerald Tablet, Christianity's 12 apostles, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 months of the year, the 12 main gods in Greek mythology, the 12 imams in the Islam religion. In Hindu, we have the 12 petals of the heart chakra. It goes on and on. And of course, we can't forget the number 32. There are 32 degrees in Freemasonry. There are 32 paths of wisdom in Kabbalah. And there are 32 marks of a physical man in Buddhism. Can all this lead to a path of truth? Did these numbers serve as a complex template for creation? And a more important question to ask, are these numbers still a template for creation? We'll also look at the significance of the priesthood. What is a priest? What constitutes a priesthood? In the Bible, a priest is required to act as a mediator. He's the one who represents the divine being to his subjects, and in return, from them to their God. He's a chosen vehicle whom Yahweh God has chosen to serve and represent him on his behalf. If we look at, for example, the priesthood of Luxor in ancient Egypt, you must realize that the priesthood population included more than 80,000 members. They were a significant force. When I was in Egypt, I asked the tour guide what precipitated the decline of the priesthood in the ancient kingdoms of Egypt. His answer was that the priesthood lost their effectiveness due to a decline in their oral traditions. The priests were not having enough children to pass on their traditions. All these topics can lead you to conclude that everyone is right. Why is everybody right? If we take the Hebrew language, the word Hebrew itself literally means to transfer. The Ten Commandments literally translates to the 10 suggestions or utterances. This could lead one to believe or suggest that there is no real right or wrong answer. It's just a suggestion as to the way to conduct yourself, but the guidance that each discipline provides is your path. This is why everyone is potentially correct. All this leads to a path of truth. It exists. These relationships that I have described and the ones that I will present in future videos are with us constantly. What my eye hopes to achieve is to use these relationships of numerology, geometry, hieroglyphics, ancient texts, and more, and to build a spiritual framework to present an alternative explanation for the similarities in many of the mysterious megaliths and statues all around the world. When you use a spiritual framework to answer these questions, the truth may appear to be obvious. You may begin to believe that everyone is right. It's everyone's personal connection that leads that individual to their path of wisdom, their own truth. We have the effect. We just need to realign ourselves with the cause. I hope you've enjoyed this video of my eye, and I urge you to become part of this journey of discovery and truth. Please support me and my eye by hitting the like, subscribe, and share buttons. And remember, by hitting the bell notification, you can be notified of our future videos. If you'd like to investigate these principles further, please purchase a copy of Inside the Queen's Chamber. It's available in English and Spanish. You can also support us through our Patreon page. All the links are listed below. And remember, we look forward to your comments, and more importantly, your questions. Thanks.